Welcome back to the Build Boldly podcast. I'm your host, Pat Rodgers, and today we are diving in on the second largest ad platform in the world, right behind our Goliath Google, and talking about Meta. So, Meta is Facebook and Instagram, by far and away one of the highest used and highest ad traffic sites in the world, or multiple sites, I should say. And today we have the pleasure of speaking with Nicole Eldridge of Nicole Eldridge Media, who focuses on this lane and helps small businesses master their ad management throughout the Meta platform. Nicole, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, we have so much to talk about. This is definitely a lane that is, I'm sure people have been frustrated with this lane. I'm sure people have seen great success with this lane. So
Mhm.
a lot of key things that we can talk through today. But I'd love to first kind of just get your view of Meta and kind of the ecosystem and why it is so important to be on this platform at a minimum.
Absolutely. Yes. I can totally relate to both sides of the spectrum of being frustrated and being really excited about using
Yeah.
Meta, even as the quote unquote expert. Because, yes, I'm not immune to the whole spectrum of emotions. Facebook and Instagram is such a great and important platform for all businesses to be on because, like you said, it is the second largest one after Google. And the first thing I always think of, I'm not the best when it comes to like specific stats and numbers, but there's something like, I think it's 3% of your whole potential market is actually ready to buy from you right now, which is amazing for Google, for those people who are searching and ready to solve their problems. But smart business owners are thinking about that other 97%, if that's the right number, and thinking about how can I get in front of those people so that when they are ready or they need someone, I'm here. Also, they're still going to be part of that 3% on
Yeah.
Meta, ready to buy now. And how can I, build reputation? There's so many other things that come from using Meta other than just generating leads and more sales. There's referrals, there's other opportunities that come up like community partners that might see you that haven't seen you before. So it's really about the opportunity to get that visible that you don't have without it.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, and I think it's important to note that if Meta and when we say Meta, we're always talking about Facebook and
Yeah.
Instagram. But if
Yeah.
we're looking at that and saying that it's the second largest ad platform, the demographics are there, the users are there, the volume of traffic is there because even if we're looking at it in ad spend from a corporate perspective, people aren't spending that money if those eyeballs and those potential buyers aren't on these platforms. And so
Right.
when you think about all the noise of, TikTok and all these other platforms that may or may not be kind of rising in the ranks, those are the challenges that, people run into of where should I be? And I think, at a minimum, the second largest traffic is probably a good place to be, but how have those kind of demographics potentially shifted in terms of who you're actually targeting on Meta versus, some of the newer platforms emerging?
The thing about meta ads is they work so well with a caveat, right? So the trick is that you can't just throw money at anything or everything anymore. There is some competition out there, and the way that scrollers, I call them, like just your audience is getting on social media where their mindset is at has changed. They're not coming on, with this excitement like I can't wait to be sold to when I get on Facebook to scroll along. So you have to kind of think about that, and honestly, you can use it as the superpower that it is. The big thing that I always talk about with meta ads is you have an opportunity to create ads that don't look like ads, and that can be amazing because you can create ads that look like something that somebody's already consuming, when they log on. And so that's a huge mistake, which I know we're going to get into in a little bit, but that's like a big mistake that people make is they're just not meeting people where they're at on the platform and how they're using it. But if we can get past that, then the targeting capabilities of Meta getting you in front of the right people are endless.
Well, that's a great point and a good segue. As the platforms have evolved, the way that we're engaging with content has evolved. What are some of those key themes that you're seeing that have kind of transferred from a click to buy now to more of this
Mm.
kind of storytelling, component? And how do you kind of weave that into advertising today? And how important is that? Because I think there's always this disconnect for entrepreneurs and owners and operators are like, I need it now. If I'm paying for it, I
Mhm.
need it right now. And that's really not where Meta lives. But how
Yeah.
do you kind of build that in? And what are those themes you're seeing in terms of the best way to communicate and engage with potential future buyers?
Yeah, so it always comes down to, for me, if you get on Facebook or Instagram right now and you scroll for 20 seconds, what are you mostly going to see? It's going to be different a little bit from person to person, but I know for me, it's simple video footage of somebody like doing their work or driving in their car or who knows what with some text on top. And usually that text is going to be like really specific to what I'm going through right now or what I'm thinking about or problems I'm facing or a solution I'm looking for in my life. And it's so simple. It's not a big, TV produced video usually, or it's somebody holding up their camera, like talking to it, which is I know can be a barrier for some people who don't want to be on camera. But honestly, that is what's working so well right now and kind of a huge difference maker we're seeing in the people who are just showing up, showing real people in their ads. It doesn't have to be the founder or the owner. You can assign someone for it to be, versus people who want to use some of like the more old school things. Like I always talk about seeing ads that look like a flyer that maybe you would put up at your local coffee shop or something like that. There's a bunch of text and maybe a little graphic or pic art or something. That's not what people are really reading or stopping for when they're on social media because it can scream ad at them. And a
Yeah.
lot of times that puts their guard up and they're like, not what I'm here for. Keep scrolling. Versus if they're on Facebook, they see a nice photo of, let's just say, a chiropractor standing in his office, and it's text, very simple text. Hey, Chicago, like this is me and this is what I do. That's something that's more native to the platform. It honestly comes down to like simplifying, pulling back. We don't have to go in and overly produce things. We just need somebody on the camera either talking or doing their work and we need to be really clear with what we're saying in it.
Yeah, and so it sounds like, we've really been conditioned. It's almost like when my phone rings and I see the spam, maybe
Mm,
spam, I'm like, "Up, decline, decline," and it's
mhm,
that same feeling where we now know inherently as we're scrolling what is an ad and what might not be an ad, and the
mhm,
best ads seem to be the ones that I didn't realize until the end that this was an ad, and so
mhm.
is that probably like, if you were gonna pinpoint the greatest mistake someone can be doing on Meta? Does it fall into the let me just shout why I'm here versus, let's build this kind of storyline?
Yes, that's absolutely it. It's really the creative side of how you're getting your message across because you can show up and say, hey, this is what we do, this is how we can help you. Sometimes that straightforwardness can have a good effect, but it's how you're presenting it. So, you know, person in your ad, that's always a big one. Like if you want to have a person in your ad, that's typically what you see on social media. And then doesn't need to be overly produced. It can be a photo of you, it can be a photo of your team. It can be a photo of you working, a video of you working, that kind of thing. That's usually the biggest mistake I see is people have like a good infrastructure and they have a good offer, all of these things, but nobody's reading their ad.
Always tough. And
Yeah.
and then that's when the thoughts of us operators and owners say, "Well, this just can't be working. Why am I
Mhm.
spending this money?" And yada yada yada. And so as you think about that, I know you're constantly iterating. You're looking at, which ads are working, which aren't, and making those changes, very quickly. What is a good kind of baseline time for a specific ad to run to know, is this the right one or are we off the mark and what do we need to do to change? Because I think that it's always, as an owner operator, you're always looking at timing. How long should I
Yeah.
let this run?
Mm,
Good people that you work with are helping you change. Bad people are like, oh yeah, let it go for 90 days and then we'll see what the
mm,
results might be, right? So
yeah.
in this world of meta, what is that kind of timeline, and to help owners and operators set their own expectations, what should that look like in terms of iterating?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really good question because it's a dance, right? Don't let it
Yep.
run too long. Don't let it run too short either. But within a week, depending on what your goal is of the ad, of course, you have to set the right expectations of that to begin with. Within a week, you should start to see some movement happening. You should start to maybe see some leads coming in, or if you're selling something, you should start to see some purchases coming in. If you're going more top of funnel and you just want more visibility, you should start to see maybe some new followers coming in, some more website traffic, things like that. You would definitely see that within a week, if not much sooner. And if I had it within a week, I would cut things and reevaluate. The biggest thing I like to tell business owners to focus on when it comes to, am I ready to run ads? Am I ready to do this? More so, than the creative and making sure that all looks good, that comes next. But think about what your goal is, and, this is something that you have to balance with your budget and with all of these things. There's kind of a hierarchy of goals in Meta. You can say, "Okay, I just want more people to know that we exist. I want more brand awareness, brand recall, all of these things." That's great. Meta's great for that, and you can spend a low amount of money, really, because it's a simple ask. As you kind of go up the totem pole of what you're asking Meta to bring you, that's where you need more and more budget. So if you're asking people to give you their name and phone number in exchange for, hey, we have this offer for you, still not a huge ask, but it's a little bit more than just, hey, make more people aware of me. So you might have to spend a little bit more for that. Lastly, if you're asking people to buy something from you straight from your ad, that's the biggest ask you can make. So you're going to have to spend even more after that. So you kind of have to balance your budget, your expectations, your goals, and then really make sure you have this clear path from ad to goal, right?
Right.
So if
Yeah.
we're looking for awareness and visibility, the a big thing we can expect people to do is see our page and follow us. So let's make that easy. Let's set up an ad where it takes them straight to our page, and let's write in the ad, hey, follow along to stay up to date with what we're doing. If you want leads and you want names and phone numbers of people who are really interested in working with you or your service, then let's make sure that process is seamless as well. Like, let's make sure they go straight from an ad to a specific page that gets their information. A big mistake I see people make is sending people straight to your homepage on your website. So instead of taking them from point A to the end, they have all these other options. They can click about, they can click, oh, let me see the team, let me see all these things. And then by the time they've lost their attention span, they haven't done what you want them to do. So
Sure.
just
Sure.
make sure you have this clear path, and then you can worry about, the creative, getting the photos, getting the videos, and things like that to send people down that path.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I love that it is, that short tests to then drive additional commitment and budget
Yeah.
and those things.
Mhm.
And we really should be looking at this as its own kind of end-to-end funnel of
Yeah.
awareness, engagement to conversion.
Yeah.
And so as you think about that, I know oftentimes folks are looking for that quick dopamine hit. all right, I got a great conversion here. But to the point that we started with of 97% of these folks are not ready to buy right now,
Mm,
how important is it to think about Meta as that funnel and kind of bring them down that path versus I'm just going to push for that top spend, top conversion, and hope for the
mhm.
best?
Yes, there's such a balance, and a lot of times it comes down to budget, but for me, there's all these different types of ads you can run, right? And when it comes to especially local specific businesses, like you're working mostly with people who are local to you within driving distance, what have you. These ads, they're my favorite because you don't need as high of a budget because you don't have millions of people that you're trying to get in front of, and that's what you're paying for when you pay Meta. You're paying to get in front of a certain group of people. Unlike Google, a lot of times you'll pay only when someone clicks or pay only when someone becomes a leader, what have you. With Meta, you're paying to get in front of the people whether they read, click, or anything or not. So what I really love to do, especially for businesses that are just getting started with Meta ads, is start with that top of funnel brand awareness type ad and encourage people to follow your page. Now, followers really aren't that important in the grand scheme of things, especially with how the organic algorithm works now. A lot of times people are experiencing, posting and getting very low reach, even for people who already follow them. But the beauty of Meta ads is that you can change that. You can actually tell Meta, "Hey, target people who follow me. Target the people who have visited my website in the last 90 days. Target the people who've liked any of my ads or any of my posts in the last 90 days." So we kind of use that as a little funnel, so to speak. Do certain types of ads that are very introductory. "Hey, we're so and so, we work with people like this and we help you do this. We're so excited to meet you," yada, yada, follow along, and then create a second campaign that does what's called retargeting to then keep getting in front of those people. This is a great way to make sure that you're getting more visible because people need to know about you in order to do business with you, and then stay in front of them because a lot of us can be easily forgotten with so
Yep.
many things coming on our feed all the time. And when you have all these touch points, we call them, like you're constantly getting in front of people, it makes you really memorable. It gives you a really good reputation because you seem consistent, you seem on it, you seem professional, all of these things. Um, and it makes people ready to reach out when they are.
That's awesome, and I love, for those not as familiar with the term retargeting,
Yeah.
when you are sitting with a bunch of friends and they say a name of a brand, and all of a sudden you see that brand all over Instagram,
Mhm.
and you're like,
Oh,
"They're listening to me." That's retargeting because
yeah.
somebody there probably pulled up a website, it hit your IP
Mhm.
address on your Wi-Fi network, and now everybody's getting that
Yep.
ad, right? And so
Exactly.
when you think about the kind of, call it creepy, call it how did they know? That's retargeting, and I think that
Yeah.
is so important in terms of social and Meta because we get so much information. We could scroll for hours upon hours, and so we're getting inundated, but when we see that consistent, theme, that's the one that actually sticks in our brain, and so when we think about that kind of retargeting, the other thing that's been really interesting to see is that social is taking a lot of the pieces that we used to do in email marketing, in PPC, in terms of lead magnets and other things that
Mhm.
keep that conversation going, but aren't necessarily a true conversion point from
Yeah.
a purchasing standpoint. And how important is that to bring into that kind of full education layer as well?
Yes, like I was just going to say that going one, expert level up is making sure your content that you're using for those, we'll call them follower ads or awareness ads, is going to look different than the retargeting ads. So for the follower ads, I like to say a lot of business owners are familiar with like attending networking events and having their 2 minutes to stand up and introduce their business. you're not going to stand up and say, come to my gym today. Like you're not going to go right for it. You're going to introduce yourself so that the right people can filter themselves in or out. And you're just going to explain what makes you unique so that you stand out amongst the 30 other people that are about to introduce themselves. So that's a great way to think about, what do I say in my top of funnel ad? And from there, you're going to have the right people coming through. And when it comes to retargeting, then a lot of times what I recommend is, if you're posting to your Facebook and Instagram page, which I know a lot of people, that's another big sticking point, is getting the posts up. But if you are, a lot of times that type of content is great to use for your retargeting ad. It might be testimonials of people who've had great experiences working with you. That also helps build your reputation, helps people see, oh, that person needed a power washer. They're in my neighborhood. Like, any way you can make the connection, oh, I should reach out to that person to get my house power washed or what have you. A testimonial at the top of the funnel is going to be meaningless, because if people don't even know who you are, then they don't really care about what other people have to say about you. They just need to know who you are first. So sometimes that testimonial content, some behind the scenes content, some more personality showing, or education even. Education is a big, used to be like really popular, like, oh, post 3 tips for this, 5 tips for this. That's really not catching people's attention at the top anymore. But if they've already shown interest, then you can pay for only those people to see some of your more relationship building content. And the way Meta does it is they space it out strategically for you. You can take 10 of your last posts on your Facebook and Instagram page, throw them into a retargeting campaign to people who followed you, who've gone to your website, things like that. And those people are just going to randomly start seeing some of these different posts every couple of days, and be like, and it's going to make it feel like, oh, you're everywhere, you're posting all of the time. But really, you just set this campaign up once and it's doing the job for you.
Yep. Well, and I think that that's an important part too is, folks need to understand that a lot of that targeting comes down to defining who your audience
Yeah.
is and building upon that. And we can get really, really, tight on that, ICP, but also even geographies. And you mentioned the
Yeah.
local business and the ability to target that. You know, give us a little insight into how granular we can get, because I think that's really important for folks that don't grasp, like, well, I just don't want to blast something out there and it's hitting
Hmm.
everybody. How granular can you get? And what are some of your tips that if a person like yourself isn't giving you advice on in terms of targeting, that you should probably run?
Yeah. This is comes up like almost every day for me, is the targeting thing. Because what a lot of people don't realize is that the way Meta targets in ads is completely different, probably as of like maybe 6 months ago, at this point, as to how it's been for years. So it used to be that you would get so specific. So let's say I own a coffee shop. I'm going to target like people who are interested in coffee, and you can put that in. Working professionals, moms with young kids, because they often come in. Like, you can stack all these things up and get really specific. Well, there's different laws being put into place, all of these things. There's more blockers of, like, people blocking these cookies and things like that. That Meta was kind of losing its power, so to speak, on when you're putting these interests in here. So they changed things up, and they really made it so that what your ad says, even if it's a video and it has text on it or it has sound in it, and then the caption of it, all of that, it's going to read, and it's going to analyze and think, okay, who should I put this in front of? So when it comes to the actual settings inside your ad manager, when you're actually setting the campaign up, it's actually best practice now not to put in all these super specific targeting interests. If you're local, you definitely want to put in your area, your geographical area, and you can get strategic with that. There's a lot of fun things you can do with that. You can set a radius, you can use zip codes. Sometimes you can drop pins like on specific neighborhoods if you know that there's like specific neighborhoods that are the best people to sell to. Sometimes we get strategic by like doing a radius, but then excluding certain areas that you know you probably don't need to spend money advertising to. There's a lot of fun things you can do with that. You can put in your location, age range, I love, and then obviously if you market to like a specific gender, you can put that in. But other than that, we don't put in any specific interests. What we're really focusing on is the specificity in the copy. So you don't want 2-sentence ads. Like you don't want to, market to every single person. If you're like, oh, I'm really looking for more luxury homeowners or things like that. You're not going to just like speak to all homeowners. You want to speak to specific problems and things that demographic is facing every day, because Meta can read it, and then they can also read other people's ads who have similar, jargon and things, and they can see who's responding to those ads. They can see who is in certain Facebook groups or like liking certain things, and they can match the behaviors of people to what your ad says. So that's another huge mistake I see, is just things being too general in the actual copy, because they're really banking on those settings in the background. And that's not really how it works anymore. It's actually comes down to what your ad actually says.
Got it. Yeah. Well, which is
Yeah.
so important. And, for anybody that's like, well, Facebook has control of that. Well, they want you to continue to spend money. So
Yes.
they are going to do their best to give you the best outcomes. So that is
Mhm.
positive in a lot of ways. And so, the demographic component is really interesting. I'm probably gonna start dating myself. I got Facebook, came out in high school, and then I think
Yeah.
we got Instagram at the end of college. And so I know my generation, older generations are in that. Where is that kind of, is everybody still on these platforms? Does it still have that wide of reach? What does that look like today in terms of the audience that you want to capture that is actively on these platforms?
Yeah, I get that question a lot too. It's Facebook really is everyone. Gen Z is even on Facebook. They just don't do anything on it. They don't post, but they're on there. They're scrolling, they're doing things. They're doing it silently. Whereas
Sure.
usually the older generation is the one that's like a little louder on Meta. Um I always recommend that it doesn't matter who your audience is. Like I've ran ads for like a doggy daycare that specializes in supporting like elderly people's dogs. Like, we've gone niche, and like those ads popped off on Facebook. So it doesn't matter really who who you are targeting. It can be B2B. It can be anything. Everyone is on Facebook. Not every single
Yeah.
person, but every audience is on Facebook. Now, there are times that sometimes I say, hey, let's test things just on Instagram. Definitely if you target like millennial audience, female millennials especially, like sometimes we just put our money to Instagram. That's usually after putting our money to both. So, like you mentioned earlier, when we say Meta, it's Facebook and Instagram. If you don't touch the placement settings in Ad Manager, your ad will automatically go on both. And that's how we start for pretty much everyone, unless it's really obvious, like the elderly dog walking business.
Right.
We really just kept it to Facebook for that one.
Yep. Yep.
Um, we almost always go on both, and we can watch how users are behaving on um, both platforms. Okay, we're getting a lot of leads from Instagram. We're still spending a lot of money on Facebook. Not as many leads are coming through there. Let's just kill the budget to Facebook. Let's just stick to Instagram. So I almost always recommend go to both. It doesn't matter who your audience is. Kind of watch what's happening on both from there, and then make a decision about where to put more money.
Ready to grow? Rise has your back. One of our customers put it best.
I believe truly by moving into that space, it made me so much more efficient. It made me, again, have a different mindset. Now I need to work harder. So hired more people, created more of a structure and a schedule. My efficiencies went through the roof. My profitability went up.
What started as a 600 square foot warehouse became the turning point. More structure, more clarity, and a business that could finally scale. That's what Rise is built for. Business space with flexible leasing, all-inclusive amenities, and secure locations. So you can move your business forward close to home, but not in your garage. If you're not sure what kind of space you need, head to our website and schedule a free 15-minute space planning call. Finally, leasing that works for your business. Visit risecommercialdistrict.com to learn more.
As we think about that kind of, funnel and the folks that are engaging and, whether it's the B2C or B2B, one of the things that I think is important is having that kind of full funnel perspective. And so we've got the funnel that lives on the platforms, and then we have the funnel that we did convert, whether that was a lead magnet, a follow along, and now we have, contact information. What are the things that businesses need to have behind Meta to ensure that they can capture and truly convert over time versus hoping that that first conversion is going to happen online?
Yeah. Yeah. You're definitely going to want to have one, like your basic, we call it like evergreen marketing in place. So whether that's posting occasionally, I don't think you have to post very often, but if you post, a couple times, once or twice a week, that's great. If you have your email list, you're sending that evergreen email list because you're going to be capturing people and you don't want to spend money to capture them and then just fall off the face of the earth, right? But you also want that specific lead to sale nurture system. That might be emails. Right now, we're really seeing the most valuable way to make sure that we're getting people from point A to point B. They're filling out their contact information and then they're taking that next step is SMS or like text
Yeah.
marketing because if I open my email right now, there's probably like 600 unread emails. I can't
Right.
lie,
Yeah.
but I don't have that for my texts, right? Um, and they can be they can be so casual in text too. Like, hey, so and so, I just saw your name come through on my list for blank. I would love to talk more about this. What are you thinking? Or here's a link to get a time on my calendar or what have you. And the truth is, people are so busy. They're thinking about a million different things at once. And especially, again, that state of mind on social media where they're just like kind of in the zone out mindset of scrolling. They might see something and be like, oh, that's amazing. I'm interested in that. Let me opt in so I can come back to it. And the coming back to it part is the harder part to capture
Yep.
with people. So if you can just send a casual text, hey, I just saw your name come in sometimes, or a lot of times, I should say. They might not respond to that one. But if you have an automated one that's 3 days later, hey, did you still want to do this? It's like, oh, yes, I did. So I think that SMS flow can be the biggest difference maker, which is what we're really seeing most recently.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I think it's true. We're all wildly inundated with email and spam and you name it. And that text path, you see it a lot with retailers and
Hmm.
e-commerce and things of that nature. But it does have a really positive effect on business as well because we are so busy and trying to find it. And I actually now use the unread message part to actually remember to go back to something now. Which
Yes,
thank you,
I do
Apple,
that
that
too.
was helpful. But that is, becoming such a big path. Hopefully we don't overuse it, but it's
I know.
also not horribly hard to set up. And I think that's
Right.
important for audiences to know is whether it's HubSpot or a number of these tools and specific text tools are out there now that make it very easy to automate that flow where it's very similar to that nurture email path, but it's
Right.
just in text and you can be a
Yep.
little more personal and go through that path. So I'm glad you brought that up because I think that is, you have 4 or 5 different lanes to continue to nurture and making sure that you're doing that is so critical so that you don't lose what you already paid for.
Yeah, yeah. And yes, I love that, the text flow is more what's working now because I remember and in our agency and when we're helping people writing the emails, like those are so much longer. You're trying to be so clear and specific in what you're saying. A text is one sentence, right? So I'm like, I can write 5 texts really easily. There's different, I don't know if we call them tricks, but little tactics to, get more people to respond. Certain things like, if they haven't responded in a week, like, oh, we have one that goes out that's no big deal. Looks like you're no longer interested. Like, we are here when you're ready. That gets so many responses. So many people saying, no, I actually am. I've just been so busy. Don't take me off the list. That's
Yeah.
a big thing is people are very concerned of, oh, I don't want to bug people too much. And the thing is that one, this is your business. So you definitely want to follow up and just don't worry about bugging people. They are free to take themselves off if they want. But a lot of people actually really appreciate it because they opted into your ad for a reason. They just this, following up with you just keeps getting pushed to the bottom of their list of
Right.
endless things to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and there are a couple little things to be aware of when you're doing your conversion
Totally.
campaigns. You should have a opt-in to SMS, checkbox on that. Most platforms will
Yeah.
give that to you out of the box so that you know that it's coming and you don't get into further trouble on the back end. But I love that breakup text because we used to use the breakup email all the time. Oh, I haven't heard from
Yeah.
you. I'm so sorry. If you ever need anything, it's,
Yeah.
oh, no, no, I'm still here. And now we can do it the same
Yeah.
thing on text. So I love that strategy. I
Exactly.
think that always is just, hey, are you with us or not? And it's okay to ask
Yeah.
because we don't need to chase stuff that doesn't matter and isn't relevant. So I love that
Exactly.
approach because they've already said yes. They've said yes, so you
Yeah.
might as well act on it. So that's great. Well, Nicole,
Exactly.
we've hit on a number of key topics. Are there any other pieces that we should make sure we share or dive into, or even tips and tricks for folks if they're just getting started?
We hit on a lot of my big talking points of, that social first creative strategy on making sure your posts blend in some way, blend in as in it looks like it fits on social media, but stands out in what you're actually saying. That's how we always approach our ads. We touched on some other like follow up things, the funnel things. I would think the last thing that I would make sure that most people are aware of is just the tracking piece in Meta. A lot of people forget this or they don't understand it or they think they don't need it. That this is really important when it comes back to that retargeting that we talked about is just knowing that you need this meta pixel installed on your website, and this is something you can do. It's really easy, and you can do it even before you start running ads to start having meta tracking the people who land on your website because it sends that data back and helps optimize your targeting. Every person that goes on your website gives metadata on who these types of people are, what are some other things they're doing or searching for, and it helps optimize your targeting. So that's just one thing that I always make sure people know before they start running ads is that they have that installed. It sounds complicated because it's this little piece of code that has to be pasted in this specific part of your website, but it's really not. There's YouTube videos on every single website platform that will take you step by step on how to install it. So if you are planning on running ads or you're running ads right now and you don't have that, make sure that you get that installed.
That's huge. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think the other part that's really interesting is I know we've started to use a lot of that traffic and data to say, are we missing a segment? Is there a
Yeah.
emerging audience that we're not aware of, but they're hitting our web page, they're hitting our
Yeah.
ads, and that can give you so much more awareness than just assuming you know exactly what it is. We obviously want to be targeted. We're spending money, no doubt. But if there is an emerging segment, we can use this data to identify it, nurture it, and build upon it. And so I think that's another key point. Don't miss that pixel
Mhm.
because that's going to
Yeah.
give you even more insight into who's interested and potentially why.
Yeah. And a lot of people will come back and say, my ads aren't working or ads don't work. And that'll be a key piece that we'll see is missing.
Awesome. So I want to
Mhm.
wrap up with one final question for you. if somebody is looking for this, service, what are the things to watch out for? And what are the things that you kind of know you've got somebody that knows what they're doing and making sure? Because I know there's
Mm,
so many folks, so many gurus and ninjas out there today.
mm,
Who and what kind of questions should folks be asking to make sure that they're partnering with the right type of provider?
mm. So good. Yes. There's so many different types of people you can work with, right? There's freelancers who are out on their own. They do this for a couple clients at a time. And sometimes you can find really good ones, and those are hit or miss, right? And then there's kind of two different types of agencies. There's like smaller, we call them like boutique agencies. Again, they have several people that are working in it. That's what I run. And but they're not like the big ones that are working with hundreds of business owners at a time. Those ones can be very popular. They can be a little bit more affordable because they have these systems down. But do you know what I would do now that we talked through this is I would ask to see what some of the ads look like beyond even results or things like that, because we hope that they're not, but people can speak on results they got years ago or fudge things or what have
Sure.
you. But coming back to those, what those ads look like, because the flyer type ad and the really built out Canva graphic ad was something that really actually did work really well, probably, 6 years ago.
Sure.
You could put things out there at that time and, like, get amazing response, and what we've seen by coming in after some of these really big ad agencies have been inside business owners' ad accounts is that that's all they're running, is those
Mm,
types of things. It's very much copy paste across a bunch of different, um businesses. And it's only because in order for you to understand what's working now, you have to be really keeping up and
yeah.
really testing new things. And a lot of times in these really large organizations, it's really hard to get everyone up to speed as fast as social media is moving. So that's kind of, they're almost like stuck 5 years back. Like
Sure.
5 years from now, they're going to be using what we're using, and there's probably going to be something different. So I would ask that, and I would ask what kind of support you get on the other side, not just the ad and getting the traffic, because that's another huge piece that we just talked about. We can send traffic to a page or your website or what have you all day long. That's what you're paying for. But what's most important is what's happening on the other side of that. And there's a lot of ad experts and agencies that they won't touch it, right? They won't touch
Yeah.
that, or they won't help you with that. They're just saying, we'll just send you the traffic. So I would want to work with someone who's gonna help me with that, because that's where the money's actually gonna come
Right.
from. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, that's a great point, and maybe it's
Mhm,
ask for, show me 2 of your
mhm,
clients' content, and if they
totally.
look identical, that might be a sign, right?
Yeah,
It's a really
totally.
good point. I know we've experienced that in the past of, they're basically just throwing our words into Canva AI and
Mhm.
changing the background, and
Yes.
that's not gonna move the needle today. So,
Mhm.
Nicole, that is such great advice across the board. I really appreciate you diving into the details with us. We'll share Nicole's info in this episode. And if you have any questions, I'm sure she's happy to chat and help
Yes.
understand your business better. But thank you so much for the time. We really appreciate it. And we'll see everybody next time.
Thank you so much. One more thing, because
Absolutely.
this just came up. This totally, I just remembered this. Another thing that I know, it's so hard when business owners are so busy with a million different things. But one thing I do recommend for everyone is, even if you can just get a basic understanding of how Facebook ads work before you hire them out, so that you know what to
True.
look for and you know what's good and what's not. Um, it can make such a huge difference for, it has a huge ROI learning just the basics. You don't have to become an ad expert. So I actually do have I call it my mini course. It shows you how to set up your very first ad, start to finish, what to create, uh, how to set it up in Ads Manager, what numbers to look for. And I am giving that for free to any of the Build Boldly listeners
Oh,
if they
awesome.
use code Boldly. And I'm going to send the link over. But if they use that code, they can get that mini course for free, and it will give you that general understanding of content, the tech setup, and then the results piece.
Beautiful. Well, now we have even more value, guys. So thank you so much, Nicole. That's going to be a huge asset. I totally agree. Have a baseline knowledge so that you can actually dig in, and then you can work with somebody that can help you scale. So that is
Exactly.
great advice, a great end and an exclamation point. We'll share those details so everybody can see the training. And we look forward to continuing the conversation. Nicole, again, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. This was so fun.